everyone, it's Jeff here in the Custom Corner where I'm going to be sharing the delightful stories behind the wonderful pieces of custom jewelry that we create here at Dimples. Now, this particular piece has its origins in a simple phone call. The client who commissioned us to create this piece gave us a call because he was, at the time, located in a remote mine somewhere in Northern Ontario, Canada. And they had spotty internet access and limited bandwidth, so a phone call was the easiest way to communicate. And during that call, I learned all kinds of wonderful things that ended up making their way into the design of this piece. For example, I discovered that he was creating this piece as a gift for his wife to celebrate her graduation from a program in Indigenous Studies to further her career as an Indigenous studies facilitator. So there was an important element there, but there was a lot about himself and his wife and their relationship and their child that we also needed to incorporate into the piece. So I tried to combine all of these elements into one narrative piece that told their story. And it all started with that conversation on the phone. And I, from the beginning of that phone call, having heard what she was studying and that we were celebrating her graduation, I realized that we needed to incorporate something about that while being very sensitive to not misappropriate any sort of cultural design elements and whatnot. And that was the feeling behind using a birch bark texture as sort of a backdrop to the rest of the piece. Birch bark has been used for centuries, millennia probably, not only to create things like canoes for transportation, but also vessels for food and for writing, which is how people often tell stories. Obviously, there's the spoken word, but there's the written word too. So it kind of took on, birch bark sort of took on this like paper kind of sensibility for me in this design. And it was used as the backdrop to tell the rest of the story. So you'll notice in looking at this piece that the birch bark texture is obvious, but it also has a bit of a wave to it because our lives are just like that, aren't they? Waves up and down. And you can also see the two birthstones on the left-hand side sort of coming together. And that was husband and wife. And the diamond was the birthstone of their child on the right-hand side. So you read it like you would read a story from left to right. And these gemstones are not just sitting there on the surface of the page, so to speak. They're kind of up and down and off the page. And that was symbolic of how, as we move through our lives and our relationships, we sometimes wander off, slightly to one side or the other, or we just become misaligned at one point, but somehow, some way, we always end up coming back together. And that was all woven into the design of this piece, and I think it really turned out wonderfully well. And I'm pretty sure they did too. So I thought that you'd like to hear this sort of thing, and I plan on doing this more with other pieces, so please stay tuned. I look forward to seeing you next time on the Custom Corner.